Okay, so we're talking with Sharon Milburn, who is running for county clerk.
Correct.
Okay, so go ahead and kind of who you are and
Okay.
where you kind of live and little family stuff, schools, education,
Okay.
and where you currently work.
Okay.
Yep.
My name is Sharon Milburn. I am running for Carroll County Clerk. I am a mother. I have 4 daughters. I have 2 grandchildren. I live in Delphi on Armory Road across from the high school. I am a Delphi Community High School graduate of 1988 and a Ivy Tech graduate with a degree in early childhood in 2008. I currently work at Horizon Bank in Delphi, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into the office that I held for 10 years, or that I was in for 10 years, and just
You worked in the clerk's office?
correct. I was in the clerk's office for 10 years, and I loved my job, and just would really like to get back in there to serve the citizens of Carroll County.
And what positions did you hold in the clerk's office?
When I began my work in the clerk's office, I started out in voter registration, and I was the Republican designee for early voting and on election day. And then I was promoted up to first deputy. Oh, I'm sorry, first clerk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was promoted to first deputy. And then when Andrea Miller, the former clerk, resigned to take another position, 18 days before the election last year in 2019, I was bumped up to acting clerk. So I started at the bottom and I worked my way to the top.
And, okay, so you were there for the election?
Correct.
Okay.
I actually ran the election in 2019, the municipal election. Like I said, the clerk left 19 days before the election.
Those were fun times, weren't they?
It was a little challenging, but we got it done, and it was a very successful election.
Okay, so why are you running for county clerk?
When I started in the clerk's office, when I first got in there, I just enjoyed the job so much, and I felt like that was my niche. That was where I wanted to land my feet. And as the progression went on, and I was being promoted up in the ranks of the office, it was just more solidified to me that this was where I needed to be. This is where I wanted to be, and I was thrilled that I was given the opportunity to continue on my journey. And I really feel like that is where I'm supposed to be, and that is where I ultimately would like to end my working career and retire when I'm of age to retire.
How old are you?
I turned 50 in November, so.
Okay, maybe I could have said that a little nicer. So how
Yeah.
old are you, Sharon?
So, I am looking to do my commitment of a 2-year term,
Mm-hmm.
or a 2-term limit.
Mm-hmm.
So, that puts me there for 8 years through many elections and many changes I'm sure that will occur in the office.
So you must know what the job entails
I do.
because you did it. And what are some of the things that the clerk does for
Okay.
those who don't pay child support and all that stuff and
Okay.
go to court? Yeah.
There's a wide, the clerk's office is really kind of the hub of any court documents. All case filings start in the clerk's office. Marriage license, and like you mentioned, child support payments. We take traffic ticket payments. There's searchers that come into our office, and they would be searching criminal searches, civil searches. Of course, we do the elections.
Oh yeah, there'd be that. Yeah.
Yeah. Voter registration. We handle, if you've ever been in the office, there are boxes upon boxes of files. and they go back clear to the 1800s. So a lot of kids that work 4-H projects come in and do genealogy, and we do help facilitate that to a degree. It gets more difficult as the books go back further in time, but I mean, it's just, you know, like I said, that's where all the cases start, is in the clerk's office.
So I guess I'm wondering, why are you a better choice for the voters in this election, in this primary election, than your opponent?
Okay, I would say experience is the key. I do have 10 years experience in that office. My opponent, outside of starting in November of 2019, that is the extent of her experience.
Mm-hmm.
She's, you know, been in the office a few months. I held the position for 10 years, so I know every job in the office. I can do every job in the office. Being out for almost a year, you know, once the election will be over, and I would, winning the election, take over in January, I would probably need to look through some of my books that I have to refresh myself on some of the procedures. But even with that, a lot of the procedures have probably changed in a year. They're constantly changing in that office, and you have to know the baseline of what they used to be in order to change to the new procedure.
For it to make sense.
For it to make sense,
Yeah.
yes. It's got to flow.
Mhm.
And if you don't have a background knowledge of how the programs run, you're going to be lost if there's any upgrades or changes in it.
So if I put it simply, or if you put it simply, I'm hearing you say that your experience makes you the better candidate.
My experience, just my relationship with the community, that if the people that would come into our office on a regular basis for whatever reason, I had that camaraderie between the two of us. The girls that are in the office now, I worked with one of them for my entire 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the other girl was fairly new, but I've known her for several years outside of the office. So we have a good rapport there as well. And then the newest person that they just hired, I'm not as familiar with her, but she did at one point work upstairs in one of the court's offices. And she left shortly around the time that I started in the clerk's office, so I didn't have much time to work with her.
And I think that we really should clarify that the title of this position is Clerk of the Circuit Court.
Correct. It's clerk of the circuit court.
So it's not just the clerk's office.
Correct.
And you alluded to working with the files and, you know, filings and things like that. But that's why, because you're the clerk of the circuit court.
Right, but we do also handle the superior court cases as
Well, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called that, yeah.
Yeah, that always was a question in my mind too, is why it wasn't the clerk of circuit and superior court, but.
Probably because when it started, there was only the circuit court or something.
That could be.
Maybe
That
that's,
could be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wondered that too, but yeah. So the state of the county right now, as it relates to your office, you know, we're in the midst of a closing and, you know, and things like that. How would you deal with something like that if you were on the job right now?
If I was on the job right now, I would definitely be in that office 8 a.m. to 5 at a minimum. I would ensure that the citizens are being taken care of via phone, reaching out with email, if that's an option for certain attorneys' offices, or staying in contact. I would make sure that there was something current and updated on our county website,
Mm-hmm.
giving information. I would probably even go so far as to give out, my cell phone number, in case there was something that needed to be handled, after that 8 to 5 range. I think it's important that I would be rotating my staff in and out as the county would allow that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for keeping, people safe and keeping the distance, but the office still needs to run.
Yeah.
And if you're not there, during the working hours, I would probably not leave at noon on Wednesdays, just because, for a lot of people, they know we closed at noon, but you could still get a lot of work done.
Mm-hmm.
And
So do you have any experience with developing budgets? Part of the clerk, the elected official's job is to develop a budget for the following year. And I don't know how much experience you've had with that.
I actually, when we knew Andrea was gonna be termed out, in December of 19, I started working very closely with her around, I don't remember the exact month, but, I had a solid 2, maybe 3 months working with her before she, left in November.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that she was termed out, like I said, so she wasn't staying. And by progression, that was the position I really thought I was going to go into. I was running for it.
So Andrea groomed you for this position?
Correct. Andrea, yes, I sat with Andrea through, budgeting, and, in that time period that she was gone and I was working in the office as the acting clerk, I still had to do claims, payroll, and all of that, and I learned that, within a matter of 2 days. That was the date that, I was given that Andrea was leaving, and I watched her for, a day. The next day, I'm doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was, baptism by fire, and I spent a lot of, long hours in the office making sure that I was doing, the things necessary to know program, that particular program, because I hadn't worked with that one.
So how did the municipal election go?
It went off without a hitch. There's always hiccups in, elections. It doesn't matter if someone's been running an election for 30 years, there's always those little hiccups. There was nothing major that, happened in this election that didn't happen under, every single clerk as far back as I can remember. There's just, there's always that software program that might have a glitch in the voting machine where you have to, power it down and power it back up. All things that it's not anything on the actual clerk, it's just technology. Sometimes technology fails us.
Were you a part of helping to train election poll workers?
Yes.
And, there's all that the clerk also does.
Right. I actually, I didn't realize that was, part of the description at the beginning, but I did definitely find out that, I had to hold a training session, and I believe that was the weekend after, Andrea, resigned, that I had to put together a training session for, the incoming poll workers for the election.
Mm-hmm. How'd that go?
It went well. I did have our representative for our software, machines come.
Mm-hmm.
She did assist me, because it wasn't something that I had done before.
Right.
And when I worked the elections prior to being promoted up in the office, we had a different program system. So I wasn't familiar with, the ins and outs of the new voting machines. So I did have, I reached out. It was help that I was, able to get. It was, available to me, so I definitely reached out and said, I need some, and that helped me also on election day, because now I knew if there was a problem with the machine, I knew what to do to fix it, so.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Did you have any of those problems?
We had a few connecting errors with our hotspots,
That's kind of,
which is the first time they've ever used hotspots.
yeah.
So it was
Connectivity
like I
is-
said, a technology thing,
yeah.
and nothing that wasn't overcome pretty simply. It was usually they just had to reboot
Mm-hmm.
the hotspot. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, summation. Say a few words about just why and who and what you got to give.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, again, my name is Sharon Milburn. I worked in the clerk's office. That is actually the only office in the courthouse that I've ever worked. Started out in voter registration as the Republican representative for early voting. Loved the position. The first clerk position became available. I applied for that position, and I was hired for that position. And then I went to second deputy, which is the next step up. Then I went from second deputy to first deputy, and first deputy to acting clerk, and all of those promotions took place in less than 10 years.
But what does it mean for you to become clerk if you are elected?
Honestly, this is where my heart is. I strongly believe that the Lord has put this in front of me, and this is truly what I want to do. I love to help people. I love to serve. I've been a servant for a long time, serving in other capacities, and just getting back into that clerk's office and doing the job that I absolutely love. There wasn't an aspect of that job that I did not love. I loved people. I loved the filing of cases, just all of that. The elections is probably the most challenging, but they're also the most fulfilling and exciting, because things are constantly changing in our technology world. And I just feel like that job was made for me. And to have the opportunity to serve the citizens and my fellow man for 8 years, and doing that successfully, and leading the other people that are under me, and grooming them like I was groomed by Andrea. I think that's key. You've got to keep getting people in there that love doing their job. The fulfillment that I had every day going home was just over the top amazing, and I want that feeling again. I want that accomplishment back.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.